My name is Lisa, and I want to share something that happened to me that changed my whole life. I used to work at a bank in the city, and I had a secret problem that I thought was not hurting anyone. But what I saw and experienced showed me how wrong I was. If someone had told me years ago that my gambling habit would lead me to the darkest place you can imagine, I would have laughed at them. But what happened to me changed everything I thought I knew about right and wrong. I grew up in a good Christian family. My parents loved God, and we went to church every Sunday without missing. I knew all the Bible stories and went to Sunday school every week. I was even part of the young people's group at church. From the outside, I looked like the perfect Christian girl, but inside, I was hiding something that started when I was just 20 years old. It began small and seemed harmless. I worked at the bank, and some of my co-workers would go to the casino after work on Fridays. They said it was just for fun, just a way to relax after a hard week. At first, I just watched them play the slot machines. The lights and sounds were exciting, and everyone seemed to be having such a good time. When someone won money, everyone would cheer and celebrate. It looked like innocent fun. The first time I played, I put $5 in a machine and won $20. I was so excited and happy. It felt amazing to win money so easily. That feeling was like nothing I had ever felt before. It was like a rush of excitement that went through my whole body. I thought I was lucky, and that maybe I could win more money if I kept playing. That $20 turned into 40, then 60, then I lost it all in one night. But instead of stopping, I wanted to try again to get that winning feeling back. What started as fun with friends became something I did alone. I would go to the casino by myself after work, telling my family I was working late or meeting friends. I would spend hours at the slot machines, putting in $20, then 50, then sometimes my whole paycheck. When I won, I felt like I was on top of the world. When I lost, I felt terrible and angry, but I always convinced myself that next time would be different. Next time, I would win big and all my problems would be solved. I kept my gambling hidden from everyone, feeling ashamed and guilty every time I lost money we needed for bills or food. I would lie to my husband about where the money went. I would make up stories about emergency car repairs or medical bills. I convinced myself it was not a big deal because I was not hurting anyone else. After all, it was my money, and everyone had their own problems, right? I was still going to church, still praying, still reading my Bible, at least when I remembered, too. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. I felt like I was getting further and further away from God. The more I gambled, the more empty and disconnected I felt. I would sit in church and hear sermons about sin, and my heart would beat fast. Because I knew the pastor was talking about me. I knew I needed to stop, but I could not. Every time I tried to quit, something would happen that made me want to go back. A bad day at work, a fight with my husband, bills that were too high. The casino felt like the only place where I could escape from all my problems. The lies I told myself got louder and stronger. I would think that gambling was okay because I was not drinking or doing drugs. I told myself that I could stop any time I wanted to. I convinced myself that one big win would solve all my money problems, and then I could quit forever. I did not know that I was playing with fire that would burn me if I did not stop. One night, after losing $300 that was supposed to pay our rent, I went home and tried to pray. I was so upset and scared about what I had done. As I closed my eyes to pray, something happened that felt more real than anything I had ever experienced. I was not sleeping, but suddenly I was not in my bedroom anymore. I found myself standing on the edge of a huge, dark hole in the ground. I could hear screaming and crying coming from down below. My heart started beating so fast, and I felt scared and cold. Then suddenly, something grabbed me and pulled me down into the darkness. I was falling, and everything around me got darker and hotter. I felt terror like I had never felt before. The air became thick and hard to breathe, and it smelled terrible, like something rotting. I knew I was going to hell, a place I never thought I would end up. This was supposed to be for really bad people, not for someone like me who just had a little gambling problem. Before I could understand what was happening, I was thrown into a part of hell that was worse than anything I could have imagined. The smell was so bad it made me want to throw up. People were screaming everywhere, and there were evil creatures hurting them. Then I realized this was a special place for people who had been trapped by gambling addiction, just like me. I looked down and saw heavy chains wrapped around my arms and legs. The chains were burning hot and hurt my skin. No matter how hard I tried, I could not break free. Then cold hands that burned like fire grabbed me. These were demons, evil spirits that had come for me. They laughed at me and whispered horrible things, telling me I was worthless and that I deserved all the pain I was feeling. They began hurting me in ways that I cannot even describe. It felt like my body was being torn apart, piece by piece. At the same time, I had to relive every time I had gambled, every lie I had told, every dollar I had wasted. I could see my husband's face when he found out about the missing rent money. I could see my children going without new school clothes because I had gambled away their clothing money. The pain was not just in my body, it was in my soul. I felt the weight of every bad choice crushing me. I screamed and cried and begged for it to stop, but the pain only got worse. Then in my terror, I remembered one name: Jesus. I screamed his name as loud as I could. I called out, "Jesus, please save me," over and over again, even though I was afraid he might not hear me in such a dark place. Suddenly, the darkness around me changed, and I saw someone walking toward me. He looked handsome and charming, not like what I expected to see in hell. He smiled at me, but his eyes looked mean and evil. I knew right away who he was. It was Satan, the devil himself. He started laughing in a way that made me feel sick and scared. "Welcome to the truth about your choices," he said in a voice like a snake. "You thought gambling was just harmless fun. You thought you could control it, that it was your little secret. But it was me who whispered those thoughts into your mind. I convinced you it was okay to lie to your family. I made you believe that one more bet would fix everything." I felt angry and scared at the same time. I had been tricked and lied to by the devil himself. He had used my own desires against me, leading me away from God's love and into this terrible place. Then I saw a big old book appear in the air in front of me. It was glowing with golden light, and its pages were full of names and words and pictures. A voice said, "This is the book of destinies. Every person has a special purpose that God planned for them. But many people lose their purpose because they believe the devil's lies." I watched as the book turned its pages by itself until it stopped on a page with my name on it. I could see my whole life, my childhood, my marriage, my children. I saw all the plans God had for me. He wanted me to help other people, to be a good example, to use my gifts to make the world better. But then I watched as the words began to disappear, as if someone was erasing them. New words appeared that said, "deceived, destroyed, lost." My heart broke as I realized what I had thrown away because of my gambling. I had chosen the excitement of winning money over God's plan for my life. I fell to my knees and cried harder than I had ever cried before. "Forgive me," I screamed. "I did not know I was being tricked." My cries echoed in the darkness, and everything became quiet for a moment. The chains around me felt tighter, and the heat got worse. I cried with a sadness I had never felt before. I knew I was lost, that I had chosen this path, but I still begged God for mercy, for another chance, even though I felt like I did not deserve it. But then, something amazing happened. In the middle of all that pain and suffering, I felt something change. It was like an invisible force started pulling me away from the darkness. The pain stopped, the screaming stopped, and my chains began to fall off. I could feel the air around, me becoming different, cleaner and lighter. Before I knew what was happening, I was no longer in that horrible part of hell. Instead, I found myself standing in a place I could not describe. It was not heaven, and it was not hell. Next to me stood a man who was shining with bright light. His presence made me feel overwhelmed, but also peaceful. I knew right away it was Jesus. His face shone like the sun, and his eyes were full of love and kindness. There was no anger in his look, only pure love. I could not feel the heat of hell anymore. The terrible pain that had been hurting me was completely gone. It was like I had been pulled out of a nightmare and was now standing somewhere safe. Everything around me was quiet and still, like time had stopped. I did not know where I was, but I was with Jesus, and that was all that mattered. Then Jesus raised his hand and showed me a vision. I saw the world full of people going about their daily lives, not knowing about the spiritual battle happening around them. I saw many people who were like me, trapped by invisible chains, caught in sins they thought were harmless. I saw Christians, people who went to church and sang songs and even preached, but they were tangled up in secret sins that were slowly destroying their souls. Jesus spoke with urgency in his voice. "You must warn them. Many of my children are being deceived. They think they can serve me while secretly serving their own desires. Tell them the truth. No sin is hidden from me. The enemy wants to steal, kill, and destroy their destiny." Then I found myself standing in front of a gate made of the purest gold I had ever seen. I knew instantly where I was. This was the gate to heaven. The light was so bright and beautiful, filled with peace and joy that was beyond anything I could imagine. I saw angels with faces that shone with love and glory. One of them spoke to me and said, "You have been given a second chance. You must go back and share what you have seen, but remember, this is not your final home yet. You must go back and fulfill your purpose." When I opened my eyes, I was back in my bedroom. My body was covered in sweat, and my heart was beating so fast. For a moment I thought it might have all been just a dream, but the weight of what I had experienced was still in my soul. I knew it was real. I had been given a second chance, a chance to warn others and to live a life that truly followed God. I fell to my knees and cried, thanking Jesus for his mercy and love. I knew I had to change completely, to walk in his light and say no to every sin that had kept me trapped for so long. I also knew that my story was not just for me. It was a message for anyone who felt trapped, deceived, or hopeless. Every day now I live with a new purpose. I'm not perfect, but I know that with Jesus, there is always hope, always a way back to God. The battle between good and evil is real, but God's love is stronger. His love reaches into the darkest places to save us. Friends, as you have heard my story, I hope you understand that this is not just my testimony, but a warning for everyone who hears it. The devil wants to destroy our lives with sin, with things that may seem harmless, but are designed to lead us away from God's purpose for us. Gambling, lying, addiction. These are tools the devil uses to trap us in darkness and keep us from experiencing the fullness of God's love and plan for our lives. But there is hope. Jesus is calling us to repent, to turn away from sin and embrace his grace. No matter how far you think you have gone, Jesus' love is greater. He is ready to forgive, to restore, and to set you on the right path. I beg you today to make that choice. Step out of the darkness and into his wonderful light. Remember, Jesus loves you. He died for you, and he is calling you back to him. Do not wait, because tomorrow is not promised. Choose him today, and he will change your life in ways you cannot imagine.